You are listening to Fantasy Filmball with Matt and Dylan, and on this show, we turn movies into sports and look at all the Oscar prospects and their fantasy value.
I believe that this is going to win Best Picture, and here's why.
I mean, Denis Villeneuve got all the nominations he needed for Dune and still missed out on the Best Director slot.
Don't let me get my hopes up. The Academy has disappointed me too many times.
Thank you to the Academy. Thank you to all of you in this room.
I can't remember the last time I walked out of a movie theater on such a high.
No matter how certain it seems, anything can happen on nominations morning.
Never count the Golden Globes for just doing something off the walls and bonkers.
It's the kind of movie that reminds me of why I fell in love with movies.
And the Oscar goes to...
You are listening to episode 14 of the Fantasy Filmball podcast, where we turn movies into sports, and sports is just something that we don't talk about, and you may know something a little bit different this week for all the viewers over there on YouTube. Is just your man Dyl. Matt is off watching a ton of films over at TIFF, and I mean, he's a lucky duck. I'm super jealous of him, but I'm here to hold down the fort because we still have a show to put on, and this week is no different. We have a ton of stuff to discuss. Obviously the news, obviously the trailers for the week. But we have three guests who play in our Fantasy Filmball League from all across the globe who actually got to attend some of these festivals, including one who got to attend Venice and one who got to attend Telluride this past week. So we're going to hear first word from individuals who get to lay eyes on some of our biggest awards players for this season. But first, we have to dive into our question of the week, and it has to be, tying in with Venice, tying in with Telluride. If you were a film festival programmer this season and had to pick 3 films to showcase from any awards player, what would they be and why? So for all the viewers out there on YouTube, drop in the comments. For all the viewers on Spotify, Apple Music, and even the YouTube people too, come to our Discord. It's linked in the description. Let me hear about what movies you want to showcase at your festival, because I think this is a really cool question because it's just going to be a variance of answers. In fact, I'm going to ask every guest on the show today to give me their 3 films, and I feel like not many people are going to overlap with what movies they decide they want to showcase at their festival. But, I'm Dyl. I got to come with the bangers. My film festival has to be head and shoulders above the rest. I want something that's fun, engaging, exciting. I want something that's going to get the people riveting and rioting and just cheer and support. And what better that is than an episode of Friday night debut screening, EO. Saturday centerpiece, EO. Sunday closing night film, EO. Of course, who wouldn't want to see the donkey that could? EO is just like the movie that bring all people together. But that wouldn't be fair because if the Dyl Film Festival existed with 3 showings of EO on Friday, the centerpiece, and Sunday's closing night film, no one would want to attend TIFF. No one would want to go to Venice, Telluride, New York. Those film festivals would be pointless because why go to them when the Dyl Film Festival is showing EO? So I'm going to make things even. I'm going to make things fair. I'm going to have to pick 3 other movies that aren't EO. So, even out the competition, so I can't win that easily. But, I'm going to still come for that crown for Best Film Festival of the 2022 season. And Friday night, I want to start things light for my opening film. I want people to feel welcome to my festival when they're first arriving. I want to bring in people from all quadrants. And who doesn't love a good old-fashioned musical biopic? And, you already know what it is. We've had one this year that just hit all those boxes. Yeah, there's people out there who don't like Elvis, but look at the box office. Elvis raked in dough here domestically and worldwide. It obviously has a fan base, and on HBO Max, it's killing it right now. And the other musical biopic this year is probably going to do the same thing. We got Naomi Ackie as Whitney Houston and I Want to Dance with Somebody. We could be laying eyes on a future Best Actress winner here at the Dyl Film Festival to add to that long collection of winners pinned by Anthony McCartan. Here at the Dyl Film Festival, we want to continue that trend of going big or going home. Damien Chazelle, Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie. Let's ride. I want Babylon to be my centerpiece. The Dyl Fest is all about having a good time and making sure my festival attendees are seeing fun and great films, including this epic set in old Hollywood. And yeah. Give me that criticism out there. Everyone who's saying, oh, you're just picking films that aren't at other film festivals. You're picking movies skipping the fest. Sure, but the Dyl Film Festival is all about those exclusives. It's all about having a good time. And when those people out there like Anthony McCartan, like Damien Chazelle, Margot Robbie, I can hear about this film festival. They're like, I want to be involved. I want to be a part of a fun, exciting, riveting experience. They're going to bring their films to my fest. So we're going to close out the Dyl Film Festival with a movie that is going to leave everyone on a high. I want people to leave happy, energetic, exciting, all the things I've been preaching about this film festival from the get-go. I want them to rave about how fun, exciting, and special this fest is so next year we can come back stronger and better than ever because I mean, I don't know if you've looked at 2023 slate yet. There's a lot of great things coming out next year. But 2022 is what we're focused on right now. And there's one movie that is going to be the biggest crowd pleaser of this Oscar season. And that's Knives Out Glass Onion. Benoit Blanc is back, and he brought along some friends this time, including Aaron Burr himself, Leslie Odom Jr., Ethan Hawke, Edward Norton, Kate Hudson, and Janelle Monáe, who I've heard is excellent in this movie. In fact, I had them in my Best Supporting Actress 5 at this moment. I know it's a bold claim, but I feel like it really could happen. There is passion behind this movie. So, like I said before, I want everyone out there to let me know what their personal film fest lineup is, either in the comments here on YouTube, or if you're listening on Spotify, on Apple Music, wherever. Join the Discord. It's one quick step, and even if you aren't in Discord yet, it's very easy to join. I joined it specifically for this league, for this podcast, and I've had a blast on there. You're in a community with a bunch of other people who love the Oscars, who love movies, who just want to talk, and you get news. Like, I can't snap for people watching on YouTube or even Spotify, Apple. I'm trying to snap. I can't do it. I can't be perfect, obviously, but I mean, can't be perfect because my Bardo pick. But snapping too, that's not really my strong suit. So I want to hear what your film festival lineup is too. I want to see you top I Want to Dance with Somebody, Babylon, and Knives Out Glass Onion. However, let's move into the news because a lot has happened this week. Even without Matt here to help guide the show, I'm holding us down because we have the Venice Awards. We're going to be talking with a member from our Film Ball League later who actually got to attend and watch all of these movies. I think they said they watched 20 plus movies at Venice. That's a lot. And we have a lot of winners. So let's not waste any more time and dive into Best Young Actor that went to Taylor Russell and Bones and All. This is one I'm really excited to see. I've spoke a lot about my excitement for Bones and All. I've spoke a lot about my praise and just how much I adore Taylor Russell as an actress. I've loved everything I've seen her in, even the Escape Room movies. She really elevates that material to a whole nother level, and I feel like she's going to do the same here with Bones and All. And obviously, Venice loved her in this. They gave her Best Young Actor. I mean, I feel like she may have even been like top 3, top 4 for the Best Actress prize for Venice, but I'm not going to get too far ahead. We're not going to get there yet, because we're going to go to Best Actor. That went to Colin Farrell in The Banshees of Inisherin. There's a lot of buzz for a lot of different people. I mean, Brendan Fraser in The Whale, Hugh Jackman in The Sun, even Colin Farrell's co-star Brendan Gleeson for this movie. But it went to Colin Farrell, and who knows, this may be the start of his Oscar campaign. He's yet to be nominated in his illustrious career. I mean, 2023 could be his year. Banshees has gotten huge praise out of every fest it's debuted at so far, and I doubt that's stopping anytime soon. Who knows, this could become Searchlight's biggest push this award season, overtaking Empire of Light, which we will dive into a little bit later because our Telluride correspondent actually got to see that movie on opening day and has their thoughts about what that film's Oscar chances really look like. I teased a little bit before for Best Actress, but here we are, Cate Blanchett with Tar. I know for people who've been listening to this show for a while, I have not been the highest on this movie, but I had been saying I think Cate Blanchett is a real player. I think even if this movie does not go far, she's going all the way. To a win, I don't know about that. I still feel like Cate Blanchett's not in winning conversation. Obviously, this prize does help her case, but I'm still there with Naomi Ackie and I Want to Dance with Somebody. I still feel like Michelle Yeoh is going to win if Everything Ever All at Once wins Picture. But at the moment, Cate Blanchett's really just boosting her resume here to get a nomination at the end of the year. And I mean, in my personal rankings, I think she has leapfrogged Olivia Colman, and she's right on Margot Robbie's heels for that third place ranking in my slot. So that brings us to Best Screenplay, and I mean, Banshees, it's winning again here. Martin McDonagh, who has a long history of just a lot of great screenplays, gets awarded here again for Banshees of Inisherin. This is one that originally some people thought could be adapted, but is going to be pushed in Best Original Screenplay at the Oscars. There's a lot of potential here for this to slide in. So if people are in there for Gold Derby, people making their personal picks here in early September, I think it's time that we put Banshees in our top 5. Now we're going to move over to the special jury prize that went to No Bears. And this is a film I don't actually know that much about before the Venice Film Festival, but I've heard a lot of praise for this. It's actually shot up very high into my most anticipated movies list. I know Matt, I think, is getting to see this movie over at TIFF, so we'll get to hear his thoughts about it next week. So, you know, there's a little tease. Come back next week. Every Sunday, new episodes. Next week is one that you obviously don't want to miss because Matt has seen over 50 films at the Toronto International Film Festival, including No Bears. One he won't be seeing is the winner for Silver Lion for Best Director that went to Luca Guadagnino for Bones and All, because it's not showing at TIFF. But this is a film that's just, it's racking up prices. I mean, Taylor Russell won Young Actor. Luca Guadagnino's winning here for Best Director, and this is a film that we've been kind of skeptical on this season so far. Is it too weird for the Oscars? Is it too grotesque? Is it too gory? But obviously, it wasn't for Venice. Venice loved it. Venice awarded it twice. However, it didn't win the Golden Lion, obviously, because it's getting the director prize. We'll get to that in a second. Before, our Silver Lion winner is Saint Omer, which is a film that, for the Filmball, obviously, went kind of in the later rounds, but see, here early on in the award season's already getting some praise, some recognition, giving you some points for your roster. That's going to bring us to our Golden Lion winner, Laura Poitras's All the Beauty in the Bloodshed. This is a film that honestly had a big variance to it was selected in most Filmball drafts. I've seen it go as high as the second round, as late as like the 7th or 8th. And I mean, here it's already showcasing why it's such a special documentary contender this year. It's one of the few films, as Matt's mentioned throughout the season, that's shown at every film festival. And I mean, it had to show there for a reason, and we see why here it takes the biggest prize at Venice. Obviously, winning at Venice does not mean you're destined for Oscar gold. Just look back to Titan. But I think this is a very good start for this documentary here in the race for 2022-2023 season. So we're going to hop over from Venice over to Telluride, where they give out 3 silver medallion recipients, and this year's winners were Mark Cousins, Cate Blanchett, and Sarah Polley. 3 very worthy winners from big contenders here in this Oscar race, including Polley's Women Talking and Cate Blanchett's aforementioned Tar. We'll have Matt here next week to talk a little bit more about Women Talking and what he thinks the possibilities are for Sarah Polley, because this is a film that we talked about a lot here on the show. Obviously, he lived across the street from when they were filming. He's read the book, and now it's already receiving praise and winning awards. So we talked about Venice, we've talked about Telluride. Now let's dive into some trailers, because a big one came out this week. Glass Onion, A Knives Out Story had its first trailer, and let me tell you, I got a lot of good vibes from this. It really sets the tone for what we're going to feel with it. I mean, it isn't an amazing trailer to me, but the vibes that this trailer really gave off just really sold me on the cast. We knew the first Knives Out had a great ensemble, and that's not stopping here. Yes, they have names, but we got to see a little feel for how they all communicate with each other, and let me tell you, this feels up to par. D23 had a lot of announcements this week, which I think I'll save for when Matt comes on the show so we can talk about a little bit more in detail, but what I really want to highlight is Little Mermaid coming out next year. Halle Berry is one of my favorite musicians out there. I love Chloe and Halle, and I'm really excited for her to take as Ariel. Daveed Diggs is there, Sebastian. We have Lin-Manuel Miranda writing 4 new songs for the movie. So last year, a lot of people were saying this is Lin's time to get his EGOT. He didn't win for Encanto. I think he's going to win for Little Mermaid. It's his time, you know. If people thinking he could win for that song, he's going to win next year for doing a song for The Little Mermaid, which I'm going to make a bold claim here. September 10th, 2022, The Little Mermaid will be the highest grossing movie worldwide in 2023. So real quick here before we dive into our correspondence over at Venice and at Telluride, I saw a movie this week and I really just want to highlight, I want to give some recommendations out there. We always talk about some Oscar players here on the show. This movie, it's not an Oscar player. The Oscars would never touch this movie with like a 100-foot pole. But if you have some time, you want to take a break from reading all the news from Venice, from Telluride, from TIFF, go check out Barbarian. This is a really good movie, and I mean, continue the trends of me loving movies that start with B. I mean, Bullet Train, Beast, Bodies, 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 and now Barbarian. And I mean, Beast is really good too. Some people may be like, oh, it's camp. It's just Idris Elba fighting a lion, but it's got some really good camera work in it. And Barbarian just has, I just don't want to dive into this, but Georgina Campbell just delivers a great lead performance. Bill Skarsgård is Bill Skarsgård, and this is just one of the best horror movies I've seen in years. I don't want to say too much because I feel like if you go in this movie blind, you get the best reaction you can. I just have a huge recommendation for everyone out there to go check out Barbarian. But I think I've rambled enough here to start this show. So without further ado, let's hear from our first guest of the episode. And I am joined by our Venice correspondent, Zinc, from our competitive European League. Zinc, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm very good. How are you, Dylan?
I am doing great, and I cannot wait to hear about your experience at Venice. But before that, I would love to hear what your dream 3-day festival lineup is using films exclusively from the 2022 season.
Sure, let's start. So my opening film will be Tar. After seeing it 3 times in Venice, Tar is the light of my life. Tar is my all-time top 3, and it made me reconsider my previous rating system. Honestly, 20 years at Tar. As a passionate and maniacal classical music fan, the professional charm is unparalleled. Other films are like kids play now. Last year's 10 Best Picture I loved and still couldn't touch Tar. I'm at a very low spirit state because nothing compares to Tar. Everything else is boring. Tar is just unraveled, peerless, and idiosyncratic. It's the best thing in Venice and my life. So for my centerpiece, I will choose some movie that I haven't seen and potentially I will be 5 stars. First of all, EO. I need something cute and innocent donkey to lighten my mood. Hashtag EO sweep. And the second one is Women Talking. That's my most expected film of this year. I watched every Sarah Polley film and I gave all of them 5 stars. She made the best documentary. It's called Story Retell. And I'm a massive Jessie Buckley supporter. What a rising star. So my third centerpiece will be In Western East Noise. All quite on the Western front. I'm telling you, it's going to be a huge player in award season. It's unstoppable. So my closing night film will be Tar. Yes, again, Tar. I can rewatch it endlessly. After watching all the trash film, which almost traumatized me, I need to find my inner peace. I need Tar again to tell me there is still hope in my life. Cinema is here and it will never leave. Thank you. That's my choice.
Well, that's great to hear. I mean, I can't wait to hear more about what you loved about Tar, but before we can dive into that, I love the EO sweep shout out. I mean, we all gotta support the donkey, and I really hope All Quiet on the Western Front is a big player because I had that in all of my leagues, and I really hope it's just gets these the support that it seems like it's going to get for international and maybe for a few techs. But overall, how was your experience at Venice this year?
Well, my Venice is the best experience of my life. I mean, I watched 28 films, and I think they are all, yeah, kind of, some great, some doesn't seem so good, but I very enjoy the film festival so far.
Was this your first year of going to Venice, or have you been before?
Yeah, it's my first year in Venice.
So I'm assuming that you'll definitely want to come back for next year, and this is going to be like one of your new like traditions every year.
Yeah, sure. And the most happy thing I think is I watched 3 times of Tar and 2 times of The Banshees of Inisherin. So that's my best experience ever.
So going from what you just said was two of your best experiences to something that I've seen online that you weren't a major fan of, and that is Bardo. So what did you think about this film?
I think Bardo is just the director's own vision. We couldn't understand, and some people don't want to understand. So I think it's boring, meaningless, and pretentious. So why the Metacritic score is so low? I think that's the reason. And the story and dialogue are never linked. And it's the film, yeah, only for the director himself. A film should have a basic plot and is try to tell a complete story to express itself, but Bardo is a mess. With a stream of consciousness narrative style, you will feel empty for 3 hours. Some arguments are just questionable, ridiculous, and unnecessary. It's just like his fancy blog. So that's my point of view of Bardo.
So do you think Bardo is dead across the board, or do you still think it has a shot in like international and cinematography?
Yeah, I think so. Because many more other people will love it. So I think cinematography is very likely.
So moving to a film that you weren't the hugest fan of and that still has some Oscar chances, to a movie that a lot of people have been saying this is probably going to be too weird and too out there for the Oscars. We have White Noise, Noah Baumbach's return to cinema. And do you believe that this will go for any categories with the Academy, or do you think this is just too far off the deep end for them?
Yeah, I think it will get adapted screenplay because the category is very weak now, and it can fill the spot.
Did you have a favorite part about White Noise? Was it a specific performance? Was it the screenplay? Was it something else about the film?
Yeah, I think the sound is very great. all the that would be a spoiler. I just think the sound or the song in the end, the sound and the song.
Yeah, I heard online that's LCD Sound System's first song in years, so that's what I'm really excited to see. White Noise is a movie that I think is very interesting because I feel like it could definitely be an Oscar player, but I also can see the case for it just missing across the board. But I think regardless, it's going to be an enjoyable time. Did you at least have fun watching it?
Yeah, I have the greatest fun. It's my first film to watch, and it's really great at first until Tar appears. And I think Tar is the greatest film ever. It's actually top three of me.
So, I mean, let's just dive into Tar. You adore it, obviously. In fact, like, you saw it 3 times, and, like, most of us can't even see this until, like, October. So, I mean, what do you love so much about Tar?
I think the most important spot is Tar is very accessible to the Academy because the overall style is completely different from the teaser, mostly dialogue driven, accompanied by the minimalist style of editing. Only natural sound, except for the conducting of the powerful symphony orchestras, which is done gracefully, cause the distinct contrast. It just like I said, the professional charm. I love classical music, and I even put Amadeus in my top four. So I think it's even better than that, the Tar.
So, Tar, Kate Blanchett, do you think she is a frontrunner for actress? Do you think she's in the five? What do you think are Tar's overall chances at the Oscars at this moment?
Yeah, I think the most likely, of course, is Kate Blanchett for Best Actress. I mean, Kate Blanchett in the film is like the Daniel Day-Lewis in There Will Be Blood. There are no way she missed this. So Kate Blanchett is the only deserved one. Any other winner is not acceptable.
That's a big claim right there. I'm really excited to see Tar. So outside of Blanchett, do you think this could get in for like director or screenplay or even score or sound?
Yeah, I think picture, director, actress, screenplay, and maybe sound or score because they're actually not very prominent in that aspect. I mean, they're very short score, and I don't know if that hurt Hilda's chances. But I think Hilda will be nominated for Women Talking.
Yeah, I think that's a consensus right now just because Women Talking is the bigger player on paper, and I think I've heard her score is more prominent there as well. I know that you love Tar, but I know this has gotten the reputation for being kind of a cold movie and kind of like a movie that's maybe not for everyone. Do you think this will play very well to the Academy, or do you think this will be another movie like Spencer or Jackie that's just a actress player and nothing really else?
I don't think it's Spencer. I mean, it's way better than Spencer. I mean, if Spencer is 8, Tar is like 100. There's no comparable of these movies. And I want to add about the supporting actress. I think Nina Hoss can get the nomination because she is very good and Tar is phenomenal in the film and she can get it. That's all.
So, I mean, you talk about supporting actress right there. So let's hear what your 5 is at the moment because I think this is a very wide open field. I feel like outside of maybe like 1 or 2 people, there's a lot of people who could get nominated here. And in fact, you mentioned Banshees of Inisherin earlier, and I think Carrie Condon could even possibly get in for a supporting actress. So, after seeing the film, do you think she's in there for the 5? Do you think she's sitting on the outside?
Yeah, I think she is the 5. In the first of all, the number 1 is of course Jessie Buckley. I've been a supporter since this year, and she is just amazing. She is a rising star, so she's absolutely number 1. And number 2 is Michelle Williams in the Fabelmans, and number 3 is Claire Foy in the Women Talking, and number 4 Stephanie Su in Neo. It's the film is just amazing. So she done a lot compared to the Whale 2. So I think she's the number 4. And number 5 with Nina Hoss.
I really like your lineup there. I mean, you get a wide variety of films. I know that Stephanie Sue is someone that a lot of people feel like could get in. They're just not sure what the passion is for Everything Everywhere All at Once. And I feel like if Everything Everywhere All at Once is the player that Matt thinks it's going to be, so like a Best Picture hopeful or winner hopeful, I feel like she could definitely coattail her way into a nomination. So one thing I want to talk about real quick before we get out of here with your supporting actress lineup is that you have Jessie Buckley at 1 over Michelle Williams. Is this just a gut feeling that you have, or is this just more of a, like, you're such a Buckley supporter that you got to have her at number 1?
Yeah, I think it's number 2. I'm such a Buckley supporter, so I have to, number 1.
So, speaking of your supporting of actress, I mean, let's go over to lead actress with Cate Blanchett and Tar. Assuming that she's your number 1 because of how much you love the movie, who are your 2, 3, 4, and 5?
Yeah, of course, number 1 is Cate Blanchett, and number 2, Michelle Yeoh in Everything Everywhere All at Once, because the film is just life-changing. I mean, I watched Everything Everywhere All at Once in the theater 18 times, so that's very special to me. It's almost like a religion to me now. So I will put Michelle Yeoh in my number 2, and number 3 is Margot Robbie. She will be amazing in Babylon, so she definitely will have a chance. And number 4, Naomi Aiki in I Want to Dance with Somebody. She will be amazing in the role, and I'm very looking forward to watch the movie. And number 5, Olivia Colman. She is the new favorite of the Academy. I think she will definitely get in, despite the film is not doing so good in terms of Metacritic score.
I think you have a great 5 right there. That's my 5 actually, just in a different order. At the moment, I have Naomi Ackie at number 1, but I know that it is a kind of a more out there, bold type claim. I just have a lot of faith in Anthony McCartan's script and people latching onto that performance come December. But one person that you don't have in your 5 that I also don't have in my 5, but it's someone I would love to get nominated, more of like what you're saying with like Jessie Buckley and with Cate Blanchett, just an actress that you love that you want to see recognized. And that's Taylor Russell, and you got to see Bones and all. So what were your thoughts on her performance in that movie?
Oh yeah, I really love Bones and all, but I think the film is just a gore film. I don't think Bones and all will be a huge player in the Oscars race.
Yeah, that's the feeling that I've gotten from it from everyone who has got to lay eyes on it. And I even have a few friends who have read the book, and they've told me that as well, that they just feel like this movie is going to be a little too out there, a little too grotesque, too gory, like you just said, and that it will not be an Oscar player. But I can't wait to see it. And did you enjoy the film overall, or was it just too gory for you?
So basically, Bones and all makes me believe in love. And I think Mark Rylance is the best, and everyone is pale acting in front of him. And oh, of course, Timothy made me cry. He is very good in the role. The cannibalism made many elderly people laugh during some scenes. That's very funny. I got so excited watching Bones and All. Apparently, the gore gave all of us a blow. The audience is constantly with unacceptable emotions. And of course, I love the soundtrack and the score. And a little hint, the song appeared in Bronson once, starring Tom Hardy. And in the end, the cast and director are here after the screening, and I saw them in real life. I was really excited.
That's awesome. I'm glad that you got to enjoy the movie. And one more thing I want to ask before we get out of here. We go from a movie that has gotten claims of being grotesque and gory to one that has been shrouded in controversy ever since it was first announced. And that's Andrew Dominik's Blonde starring Ana de Armas. I know that you got to be there for one of its first screenings, and you were not as high on that movie as you were in Bones and All. So do you want to talk a little bit about the movie overall and Ana de Armas' chances in Best Actress?
Blonde is the worst nightmare of me. I mean, it's the downfall of human race. I mean, how can the film be so disrespectful and offensive? I couldn't believe it. I just shocked. I mean, I even have blonde PTSD now, and I couldn't even look at the Anna name now. Whenever I saw a blonde poster, I will just throw up. That's the level of disdain.
Yeah, I had seen a lot of people have just very mixed emotions about this movie. Some people feel like it's one of the best movies they've seen of the year. Then other people are just like you, where they're just so put off by the movie and what it's representing and what it's speaking about. So with it being that just far off the deep end for you, do you think Ana de Armas is just dead for actress?
Yeah, she is pretty much that, and I don't want to discuss the movie anymore. I just want to erase it from my memory because it's the worst nightmare.
So moving away from that, is there any other movie that you got to attend at Venice that you would like to talk a little bit about before we hop out for the day?
I mean, I just watched Pearl. It's an A24 film, and it's surprisingly good, and it's my number two favorite in Venice now. So I will be writing a review soon. It's Detective Zinc on Letterboxd, and hope everyone will check it.
I definitely will be checking out for your review of Pearl because X was a movie I wasn't as high on earlier in this year, but I know a lot of people loved, and I really could see things I liked about the movie. Just overall, it didn't work for me, so I'm hoping that Pearl works better for me. But did you get to see X earlier this year?
Oh, I saw that. I think Pearl is 3 times better than X, and that's the amazing.
Well, that just makes me even more excited to see Pearl, but I want to thank you for coming on and blessing us with your experience at Venice. But now let's cross the pond to hear from our next guest, which is Jack, representing the American West League, serving as our Telluride correspondent today. Jack, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Dylan. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited to hear about your experience at Telluride this year. But before we dive into that, I want to hear what your dream 3-day festival lineup is using films from this Oscar season.
Okay, so I guess dream lineup, the opening film would have to be Elvis, because I think that brings a lot of energy and conversation around. Like, if you open with that, it would just be everyone would be talking about it. Obviously, love it or hate it, that's a movie that everyone seems to have so many different thoughts on, and I think it would bring a lot of energy to the film festival. As far as the centerpiece film, I suppose Women Talking, which we'll talk about pretty soon, that would be, I think, obviously it's an incredibly important film and incredibly important topic, so I think having that as the center, and obviously it's very great too, and I think having that as a centerpiece film is just a really wonderful way to bring people together. And it's just a nice thing to prop up as the main focus of your film festival, and I think as a closer, I would go with Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio.
Nice. I think that's a very interesting lineup all around. You hit all the quadrants. You got that people-pleasing movie with Elvis. You have that more dramatic film with Women Talking. And then you close out with just one that's kind of outside the box with Del Toro's Pinocchio. I'm really excited for your festival lineup that you have. I hope that one day you do get your own festival. But today we are talking about Telluride, which you got to go to. And just before we dive into any specific movie, just how was your experience overall?
So this was my second year going to Telluride. I actually went last year too. And it was as great as the year before. It's such a beautiful, because the town of Telluride is right there in the mountains. So it's such a beautiful location. I went with my dad. And I hadn't gone to a film festival with him before, and so that was a nice, very good bonding experience there. And then the people there, everyone who's there for the festival, they all love movies. So random strangers, you could always just turn and talk and discuss. There's so much different conversation surrounding the people, the films and the directors who'd shown up. And so it's just a really nice center of film nerdiness. And so I always love just the sense of community I get going there. And then in terms of the festival, in terms of how it was organized and how everything was scheduled, the hosts did as great of a job as they always do. Everything from my experience, seemed to be running very smoothly. Nothing ran over schedule or under schedule. Theaters were always packed. It was just a really wonderful, fun experience.
Well, that's great to hear. And I mean, you get to see a wonderful slate of films, but I want to start off talking about a major one, and it's one that you actually drafted in round number 2, being Sarah Polley's Women Talking. Many people are saying this is now a Best Picture frontrunner. Do you agree with those bold claims?
I would say for now, yes, this is our frontrunner. I mean, when I was watching the film, it's interesting because we've seen this before where very emotional, very stagey films come out and they have a lot of resonance, but they're not cinematic enough to really break into the frontrunner conversation. But Sarah Polley just does a wonderful job guiding it and really like capturing the audience in the like urgency of this conversation, and it creates like a very emotional experience. And so I can't see how this isn't at least like top three for Best Picture by the end of the year. I believe if I have to guess right now, I'd say it's going for roughly 9 to 10 nominations. It could be the highest nom count of the night. Uh, Multiple acting contenders. My personal standout was Claire Foy, who is very not necessarily angry, but very passionate character. It's the best performance I've seen from her. Absolutely loved it. But even on top of her, obviously Jessie Buckley has been receiving the main bulk of this movie's acting praise. I think she will be a contender not only for nomination but for a win in supporting actress. And all the other women too. Like this will be when SAG comes down, this will be a huge contender to win ensemble, just because every single woman in this cast just absolutely nails it.
Yeah, at the moment, I actually have women talking my number one for my very early SAG predictions. But speaking of SAG, we have some time here. What else do you think will be in that lineup looking so far out here in September?
So obviously, Women Talking and Fabelmans seem to be the top two big ensemble pieces of the year. Fabelmans is kind of almost like seems to be almost a Belfast style movie where you'll have like that big family unit, very sentimental stacked cast, so you can expect that to probably be a contender. And from there, I'm gonna assume Damien Chazelle's Babylon is gonna be with such a massive, energetic cast that has to be in that lineup. Everything Everywhere All at Once has gotten acting rates throughout the entire year since it first dropped. Nobody's not talking about that. I think that will end up in the SAG lineup. And for fifth spot, I suppose for now, I'd say Glass Onion, the Knives Out sequel. That's another very stacked cast, very heavy. As we saw from the trailer that just came out this morning, the entire ensemble is going to be getting a lot to chew on with that. And so that will be another one that has huge public conversation, wonderful cast. I would totally see that being in too.
I know. I'm really excited to see Knives Out. That trailer really got me even more anticipated and excited for it. That's when I also have in my SAG 5. We actually had the same 5. I just think Babylon could be that movie that always is like the one that seems like a shoo-in that misses every year. And I feel like there's a chance, yeah, like a Mank. And if Black Panther Wakanda Forever hits, I feel like that has a shot for SAG, but also I feel that's a very big swing. But another movie that is a super big swing is one that I'm dying to see is Bones and All. It got a lot of positive reactions, but is it too weird and too grotesque for Academy members? Like, what are your opinions on that?
I mean, Bones and All was my favorite movie at the festival. I loved it. It's very challenging, you know. It's obviously the subject matter is very intense, very violent, and it tackles that. It doesn't sympathize with these characters as much as it empathizes with them. And so, like, you feel for them, obviously, but it kind of brings a lot of complicated questions as to the morals of what these cannibalistic characters are having to deal with in their lives. In terms of its Oscar chances, I would say probably not going to happen. It's just too visceral, I think, for the Academy to go for it. Kind of similar to, not necessarily the same intensity, but similar to how last year Teton just never stood a chance to have any awards potential. I think Bones and All is in a similar spot here. If it were to be one nomination, maybe it could be this year's lone screenplay nominee, because the script in this very, like I said, it's very intelligent, very gorgeous, very tender too. I mean, at the center of it, even though it's an intense horror movie about cannibals, at the center of it, it is still a love story. So.
Well, being a super huge Taylor Russell fan, I'm dying to see that movie. And if you had to give a quick little one-sentence summary of her performance, how would you describe it?
I mean, her character, the entire movie is about like kind of grappling with your identity, and her character is kind of the culmination of that. Her character's journey, yes, a lot of people will be talking about Timothy Chalamet as the big name from this, but he's someone who he meets along her journey. The movie I saw mainly as like her growth and her heartbreak and her tragedy. So she's gonna be. I think most people will be loving her performance.
Nice. So that sold me even more in that movie. I'm dying to see Bones and all. And one I know a lot of people are anticipating the opportunity to see, and I know that you get to see one of the very first screens of this movie, is Empire of Light, and it's a movie I consider drafting in the first round, but I selected Bardo, which seems like a bad pick. I know that you've seen both of these movies, so what are your thoughts on both Empire of Light and on Bardo?
Empire of Light. So this one's going to be interesting, I think, coming into awards season because, as we've seen in the reviews, it's been very. Most people don't hate it, but many people are very meh on it. I found myself the same way. I think it has a lot of good pieces. The cinematography, obviously, knockout, gorgeous movie. The score, I think, is maybe trying to estimate out across. I think it might be my favorite score from it. It's a really beautiful, very moving score. Olivia Colman, I mean, she's always a lock for a nomination. And no difference here. It's a very melodramatic, very emotional performance. But the movie as a whole just feels very messy, and it just doesn't. When I'm watching it, I don't actually feel like that emotional connection that it's trying to get me to feel. And from some of the conversations I had while I was out at Telluride, a lot of people felt the same way, in that they were just pretty underwhelmed with it. That being said, I think this could still sneak into this picture at the end of the year as a 9th or 10th slot, just because it's good enough and it's baity enough that I think the Academy could slip in and go for it. And obviously with Sam Mendes being as respected of a director as he is.
So then on the opposite side of that, what are your thoughts about Bardo? Because I know this is a movie that's very polarizing. I know some people, like Zinc, who we had on earlier in the show, very much didn't like it. But I feel like from what I've seen online that you are more of a fan of this movie than she was.
I really, really love Bardo. I thought it was phenomenal. It's 3 hours of I describe it as just random bullshit for 3 hours, but it's very personal. And see the director Alejandro Manzanero, you can see him really burying these complicated emotions that he's been grappling with for the last 15 years about his need for his identity and that connection he has with his home country, Mexico. And I thought it was beautiful. I was very touched by it from a filmmaking perspective. Yeah, I was just in awe of some of the scenes they crafted here. But it is incredibly self-indulgent. I will be the first to admit that. And for that, I think a lot of people will be turned off by just how unapologetic it is. And I think that's fair. Personally, for me, I loved it. In terms of Oscar chances, it's probably dead. I don't see it getting any more than maybe an international nomination. Even if it's going to be divisive for a lot of people, I think everyone should see it just for the utter spectacle of it. I was totally blown away.
So taking both Empire Light and Bardo, two movies that had a lot of hype going into the festivals that now are coming out with a little bit lower stock chances, they're both competing in that original screenplay category. Do you see either of these movies getting into your 5?
Original screenplay? Absolutely not. Empire of Light, its main issue is in its screenplay and the kind of unfocused mess and detached, unfocused mess that is there. And Bardo just isn't really Bardo's more a director's movie. It's more of a visual spectacle, and so I just can't see it getting in there. Yeah.
So you saw a lot of movies at the fest outside the ones that we talked about here. Is there just one other one that you specifically want to highlight to talk about, whether you really liked it, if you really didn't like it, or anything along those lines?
There's one more movie I wanted to highlight, which was the documentary Senior, which is Robert Downey Sr. and his journey as a filmmaker up until his death. I thought not many people are talking about that. So I was very blown away by it. It's a very personal, still big documentary. It does a great job of capturing that impression of his life and his journey as a filmmaker. It also does a great job of showing the dynamic between him and his son that is kind of almost like a complicated, very lovable father-son relationship between him and Robert Downey Jr. And so for that, I really love it. when it comes out, so many people should go see it. My favorite documentary of the year so far.
Well, that's great to hear. I'm really glad that you enjoyed your experience at Telluride, and I just want to thank you for joining us today. But we are not quite done yet because we still have one more guest who will help us round out the show discussing some Filmball updates. All right, welcome back in here to Fantasy Filmball. We're in for segment number 3, and you may see on the screen we have someone new here, and this is Morri from the European League. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, Dyl. Thank you for having me on here. It's going to be a really fun time. I think I've been listening to your podcast while I work at home, while I do chores. It's just a really fun time to, just listen about films and, all the stuff to do with Filmball, which this is my second year playing. So, I feel like I'm quite well versed in the spirit of things.
Before we get into some more Filmball talk, I want to ask everyone the question that I started off the show here today with is what would be your dream 3-day festival lineup using films coming out this award season? As I mentioned mine before, but I want to hear what you would have. So what would be your opening night film for your film festival?
I think for the opening, I'm going to go for Triangle Sadness, just because it sounds so insane. And just get people all so hyped up for it. Just the crazy stuff that might follow, that it's just like an insane appetizer for things. And then the centerpiece, I gotta go Daddy Spielberg, man. I gotta get people talking. I gotta go Fablemans. You want your centerpiece to be, a big lad. You want it to be like the one that everyone comes for, and you can't get any bigger than like Steven Spielberg. And for my closing, I had a few thoughts. I was thinking of copying London Film Festival with Glass Onion, because that'd be like a fun end. But I thought, why not we go for a little fairy tale end and go with Pinocchio, the Guillermo del Toro version, not the Zemeckis version. But yeah, I just think it'd be a really charming, fun end to the whole proceedings.
I mean, I really like that lineup. While I haven't seen Triangle of Sadness myself, I know Matt has, and he talked about how just insane that film is, like you were talking about, and I thought that would be one that would be really good to see with a crowd because you can get everyone's reaction. Like, I know Don't Look Up last year was a Netflix movie, but I had like the luxury of seeing it in a theater with other people, and that at least for me, that made that movie work so much better, having people around you laughing, getting very into the comedy. And even though it's not the same type of comedy, I feel like a Triangle of Sadness is going to have that same type of feel for everyone. Were you a fan of Don't Look Up last year?
I was, yeah. I didn't see it in the cinema, but I kind of wish I did, because it would have given me those vibes. But yes, I did like it quite a bit.
And then Fableman's same thing, like you were saying. That's just such a film festival type movie, especially if like Spielberg wanted to come out to your film festival, want to go over to Europe, be there, greet the people. That would just be such a great time. Even though, I mean, I talked about it here on the show a little bit today already, but I still regret passing up on this movie for Bardo, and we'll talk about that here a little bit more in this segment. And I really like your closing night film of Pinocchio. That is one that I wasn't even thinking about as an option for this, like for my Dream Festival lineup. But that's one that I think is a really inspired pick, because people may see animation, they may be like, oh, that's for kids, or that's not really up my alley. But I'm really excited to see what he brings to this, because I feel like with him having his name, that will give a lot of people to be like, okay, I'm gonna give this a shot. And when they see this and be like, oh, you can make animation for adults, and then they'll start seeking out other adult animated movies like Wendell and Wild, like some stuff from the past, and then maybe some more studios will be like, okay, we see people love this, because like Matt's thinking this could be a huge Oscar player, and like if a lot of people see this and they enjoy it, it could go a long ways, and the future of animation could be changed forever. But you mentioned before this is your second year of playing Filmball. So how'd you find yourself into the league?
So I am on the Oscar Discord server, ODS, which Mackie was on. I don't know how he came up with the idea to bring it into the group. He just sort of did, and he was like, we're doing this thing. It's like a fantasy football, but with some films. Is anyone interested? And so I like the stats idea of like your fantasy football kind of thing, that kind of the game, the betting, all that stuff. I just don't give a damn about sports, So this is perfect. It was like taking that the fun stats betting element and just putting it with something I really liked, which was films. So how can I refuse?
I mean, you hit the nail on the head right there. This is a show where we turn movies into sports, and sports is just something that we don't talk about.
Talk about, yes.
Exactly. So you mentioned this is year number 2 for you, and so year number 1, how was the team for you? Were you like top of the league? Were you the bottom? How was it? I can tell by your laugh right there, it probably didn't do so well.
Okay, so my ringer, and this is the dumbest decision I did all year. All of like last year, I was saying, don't count out West Side Story. You know, Spielberg, he doesn't get it. He always gets in like his Oscar bait project. I'm still doing that for the Fablemans, actually, coincidentally. But I was just saying like he can do it. He can get in. He can get a lot of stuff. Guess which film I immediately don't pick off my first round when it's there.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, I went for Tragedy of Macbeth, which
nice.
Everyone was high on at the time, but we did not realize it was like not going to be the most accessible. Like we saw A24 was on it, and we were like, we did not comprehend like just how A24 it would be, how it would be more similar to more like a Witch kind of thing. Then it would be like your standard Coen Brothers there. But this is it, like Coen Brothers, they got into the Oscars a bunch of times before. Best director, they've won before. They've had a few more nominations. So, it's easy to look back and think, oh, well, that was a silly pick. Why'd you do that? But I guess when you've got those names, then you just don't think like that. You just see Joel Coen's got a new film out, and and when he says jump, you say how high.
I mean, I didn't fall into that same boat last year. I mean, West Side Story is one I was really high on. I think I was probably the highest on it in my league last year. I didn't take it, though, because that's one of my biggest regrets last year. I fell into the same trap you did. I didn't take Macbeth, but I took Nightmare Alley. I was thinking, oh, it's a remake of a Best Picture winner. It's Del Toro. Why could this not succeed? This is going to be a huge tech player. Director's probably coming along, an actor, a supporting actress. And what did he get at the end of the day? It barely scraped by in the Best Picture. It probably only got in because we had 10 nominees. So I kind of made the same mistake as you, going for that more like tech player and like the more artsy movie, when Steven Spielberg, like you said, he doesn't miss, he doesn't fail, and West Side Story was right there, and I passed on it as well. But was there anything else on your team last year that you were really either proud of picking in the later rounds, or it just more bust all across the board?
So my other ringer, which I was kind of thinking about directors, my second pick was Don't Look Up, which I was coming in there, I was thinking similar sort of story to Spielberg, except not so much acclaim. Like I'd seen Vice, obviously had got kind of mixed reviews, but it still got into Best Picture. It's still got a bunch of acting nominations. It's still got it got original screenplay, got editing. So my thought was like, well, Adam McKay, he's clearly like a favorite of the award circuits. So yeah, I just thought that would be a really good pick, and it was okay in the end. Okay pick, but the critic reception was just not very good, so it kind of hampered that chance.
Oh, sorry, not to cut you off. I was just going to say that I still think Don't Look Up is a great second round pick. I mean, I think it was in the top 15 of point scorers last year, so depending on how your league was set up, that's still either a late second, early third round pick. I mean, it got you a Best Picture nominee, so it definitely made up for the Macbeth pick in round 1.
Yeah. But yeah, some other notable lowlights. I picked Last Duel in round 3. I betrayed my British roots because No Time to Die hadn't been picked yet. I should have gone for that. I should have just been the stereotypical British man and just picked Bond. I should. That would have given me a nice hole, but no, I get saddled with Last Duel. And then also later down the road, I picked Spain, which I got that because palm points, but and then France said, "Oh look, we're selecting it for our submission for the international film." And I was thinking, oh, yes, it's gonna pay off for me. And then it didn't make the shortlist, and I was like, So that was it. Okay, and then this is the big kick in the nuts. Round 9, I pick a film that it was going to come out in 2021. it gets pushed to 2022. You know what that film is?
I think I have a guess because I think Arno did the same exact thing that you did in round 9.
What do you think it was?
Was it Top Gun Maverick?
It was Top Gun Maverick. That was
Wow.
like the biggest. That was the biggest kick in the teeth for any sort of like, oh, dearie me. That was, forget about the tragedy of Macbeth. That was the tragedy of Maverick right there.
Right there, exactly. I mean, so we're talking about Maverick here, and I mean, you saw the vision before anyone else did. You had it last year. So, do you have Maverick on your team this year?
No.
Ah.
I will say, just before we leave last year, I did have one reasonable pick, and it went late, actually, round 7 that I got in, and that was Eyes of Tammy Faye. Like, it just, for some reason, didn't leave. It just didn't get picked.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were kind of thinking, like, when it had, like, its initial TIFF premiere, and the reception was just kind of iffy. I was thinking, oh, God, I've screwed myself again. But no, we have Academy Award winner Jessica Chastain, which made sure I wasn't dead last. I came 6th out of 7th, so I wasn't last. But yeah, it was not the best introduction to the world of Fantasy Filmball.
I mean, you got to learn a lot last year because, I mean, I also was on that Jessica Chastain train. I had Eyes of Tammy Faye. I think I picked in the 5th round because I went back-to-back rounds of Tammy Faye and Parallel Mothers. I was like, I want this Best Actress winner. And it turned out to work well for me at the end of the day. I, like you, did not have the best year last year. I came in 4th out of 7th, and the year before was my first year, and I came in 2nd. So I was like really confident last year. And then last year brought me back down to earth, and then I repositioned this year, and I'm not looking off to a good start because Bardo, as we talked about on the show last week, got panned at Venice. It just had its Telluride premiere as well, and it did not look that much better. It was a little bit better, so I was right. It wasn't as negative as it looked, but it's still not looking very good for me. So I know you talked about your team last year not being the best. Was there any strategies that you changed up for this year to hopefully come out higher than at the bottom of the league?
Yeah, it was kind of my strategy this year was to basically get a range of stuff in, just try and make sure all the bases were covered. So I had one or two like obvious big players that came out right at the gates, one like crowd pleasy blockbuster kind of affair, like one like smaller Sundancey film, animation, documentary, non-English film. You know, it's just trying to get all those boxes ticked, I guess, just to give myself a really a good chance of getting into most of the categories. Yeah, that's what my idea was.
I mean, it sounds like you hit all the right boxes. So if you don't mind me asking, what teams do you have on your for your lineup this year?
I got lucky that I got to pick first. So I realized I'm not making the West Side Story mistake again. I'm picking Spielberg. He's mine. I've learned my lesson there. Round 2, I was actually the first pick, so I got the snake draft, if that's what you call it. Mm-hmm. So I got to pick 2 in a row. Round 2, I took Elvis, which I just thought, get those Austin Butler points in, get those some tech points in. This was before we found out Warner Brothers was like no money. So.
Shh, that doesn't matter. Austin Butler, he's still going all the way. He has the support from the industry. I will sing this song all season long. Even his competition, Hugh Jackman, said Austin Butler is great. So I mean, he's conceding the award over.
Yeah, I still think he'll get into Best Actor, especially since a lot of the contenders have been dropping like flies. But yeah, and then round 3, for the second year in a row, I did a Palme d'Or winner. I took Triangle of Sadness. This is going to be my running gang. I'm just going to take all the palms. Yeah, I just thought that could be like a screenplay director, maybe potential supporting actor for like Woody Harrelson going in there. So yeah, I just thought that'd be a good thing, and it gave me points, right off the bat. So that was nice. Round 4, I took, we mentioned it earlier, Glass Onion, which...
Really good pick.
I didn't technically have a blockbuster plus. Oh, actually, hang on, no. Elvis made money. Elvis is a big old money maker, so
It is.
that kind of counts. So I didn't have any of the obvious, like, crowd pleaser stuff. I didn't get Maverick. I didn't get that redemption arc. I couldn't get Avatar. I couldn't get the Batman. But yeah, Glass Onion was just sitting around, and even though it's like not going to make like big like box office because it's on Netflix, I just thought, yeah, this is probably going to be a good crowd pleaser. This is probably going to be good at like fifth at People's Choice stuff. It could get into Golden Globes for a comedy and musical. So yeah, I just thought that was a good crowd pleaser. And now that I hate to rub it in that, but since Bardo is dropping, Glass Onion is popping.
I mean, right there. I like that analogy right there.
And then what have round 5? Oh yes, round 5. I had All the Beauty and the Bloodshed, and it ticked my box of the documentary, so that was all good. And then round 6, this is miraculous that it survived this long, but I took Living. This is kind of in that Sundance smaller film kind of mold. As you can see, we've been talking like Bill Nye. He can quite easily get into supporting actor. He could get a bunch of BAFTAs nominations. Matty he's really high on it. Like he's saying stuff like the tech picks. Like he really liked the score and all that stuff. And even though I'm not putting it in yet, it's like good to have that as like a good backup kind of thing. Round 7, I took Strange World, which I think, Pinocchio's got animation sewn up, but, we've got stuff like the Annies and, just the animation categories all across the stuff. Like I looked and I saw like Raya got like 200 points and it, didn't win anything. So I think Strange World, unless it's like a real thud, it can just get me a like reliable set of points there. And then round 8, at this point, I was looking for like an international film because that was the real big box I was missing at that point. And all the stuff I've been taking, All Quiet on the Western Front went, No Bears went, Close went, just all that stuff. But there was one film that was miraculously still around in round 8, and that was Holy Spider. So yeah, I feel like I just noticed it, and it was like, that's a good, solid pick. And it's Denmark, who they're usually pretty good at picking the selections. Like, they're not too far off a win with another round. So I think they're pretty wise. They'll know it's the kind of film to pick. So hopefully that's a good point bringer for me. And then we get into round 9 and 10, where I started more having fun, I guess. I picked The Menu in round 9, which, it could do some fun stuff. It's stuff like Golden Globes and stuff. Ray Fiennes could get in the Globes, and Taylor-Joy could get in. So yeah, it could. It's like a decent like end of the line pick. And then for the real end of the line, I took See How They Run. For again, similar reasons to get Golden Globe. Saoirse could get a few nominations here. Could get BAFTA because it's a British film and all that stuff. So yeah, I just feel like I was able to hit all the marks with these films.
Definitely. I mean, running over your team real quick here again, you had Fabelmans in round 1, Elvis, Triangle of Sadness, Glass Onion, All the Beauty and the Bloodshed, Living, Strange World, Holy Spider, The Menu, and See How They Run. I really like your team. I think it's safe to say that you're not coming in last this year. Looking at your league mates here, I think that you may have the best team because Fabelman seems to be a pretty big player. I'm really high on Elvis. Triangle of Sadness looks like it has a really good path for director and screenplay. Glass Onion seems to be Netflix's main push. All the Beauty and the Bloodshed's a big doc player. Living should pop up here and there. Strange World should give you that whole right in the last dragon treatment. And your last 3 round picks have potential to score you some points here and there. So how do you feel about your team overall?
Yeah, I'm really happy with it. Just because, as you say, there's the range and all that stuff, and I was able to get Fabelmans in there, and all that stuff. I'm intrigued you said my team might be the best. I'm looking over my teammates. There's one of them, they have the most insane top two. They have Women Talking and The Sun. Like, that is a frightening top two. Like, even if the rest of that league isn't as strong, and even then, that same league has stuff like Pinocchio and Black Panda, Wakanda Forever, and Bones and All is in there, which obviously just premiered at Venice, and it got pretty good, solid reviews. So, yeah, I think I don't think it's a certainty I'm going to win it, but yeah, I should be hopefully in a good position to get a good spot on the team.
I mean, funny enough, that team you're talking about is Zinc, who we had on earlier in the show to go over the Venice movies that they got to see. And I mean, like you said, they have a really solid team. Women Talking looks to be really good. The Sun is a big player. We talked about Pinocchio's chances, and they have a big blockbuster like Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. But you have Glass Onion, and that has the detective. So I want to see your detective skills in talking about Best Original Score this year, because I know this is a category that you are very passionate about, and you had some thoughts about Matt and I's picks last week, so I want to hear what your score lineup is at this moment in early September.
I am. Well, you mentioned it last week, and this is a very hard category to do predictions for, because you never hear, you don't really hear it until your stuff comes out. So you're pretty much basing it on, like, who's your big composer out there, what's, the kind of director and all that stuff. So it's a tough one to start, but I'm pretty confident with my number one, and that is The Fabelmans, John Williams. It's not quite his last film. Before his retirement, Indiana Jones 5 is going to be that, but I feel like the Academy is going to be more willing to reward him for Fabelmans over a sequel, if you get what I mean. Because if you look down the list of Best Original Score winners, there's not a whole lot of sequels in the mix. Like, the only one I can think of is Return of the King, but that was like when Lord of the Rings was sweeping the whole thing. So I feel like if you're gonna give John Williams final Oscar, it would be for a real fully original score, and I think Fabelmans is gonna give him that kind of edge on that front. So
I mean, just looking here, or sorry, you go ahead and continue. I was just gonna say, just looking in here, he has so many nominations, but when you look at it, and he doesn't have that many wins. He's got a total of 3, 4, 5. He's got a total of 5 Academy Award wins, and they're not all just for score either. So he is someone who's been nominated a bunch, and he has not won since 1994 for Schindler's List for Best Original Score.
Yeah, and it's that same kind of argument with that we were saying that of how Spielberg can win Best Director, because Spielberg also, he's not won since 1999 with Saving Private Ryan. He's made a bunch of films since then. He's made a bunch of Best Picture nominees since then. But yeah, it's a similar sort of story with him and John Williams, just because he's such a legend. He's done so much stuff in that interim. He's done all those Spielberg films. He's done Harry Potter. So
yeah, Fabelman's at number 1. John Williams, obviously, they got to reward him before he goes out. So who does that make his runner-up at number 2?
So I was mulling over this, but I think I'm going to say Empire of Light, which is by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. I think it's quite a distant one. And here's the thing with that. So Empire of Light is directed by Sam Mendes, of course. In the past, he's pretty much always worked with Thomas Newman, who he's one of my favorite composers, and which is one of the hardest things in the world, because he has never won any of his awards. Even when he's got banger after banger, like American Beauty, Skyfall, Wall-E, he just keep missing. And so we were going into this award, and I was assuming, right, it's Mendes, Thomas Newman's going to score this, obviously. And I was thinking, well, maybe this can be his chance to win, So, because he's so overdue at this point. But no, it turns out, Reznor and Ross are on board, which I'm excited for, because I love their stuff in the past. Social Network was great. Soul was just amazing. Yeah, I do think that not having Newman on board kind of makes the gap between Fablemans and Empire that much larger, if you get my drift. Like
I
I
do.
feel like because yeah, Reznor and Rust, like they won just 2 years ago. So I would the Academy be in a rush to do it again? But saying that, I did hear like their work. We heard a bit of the work in the trailer. It's really good. It's really promising. I'm really looking forward to hearing the stuff. So yeah, I've got Emperor of Light second at the minute, I think.
So we heard number 1 and 2, Fableman's Empire of Light. Let's hear number 3.
All right, so I mulled this over for a bit, but I had to go with Pinocchio by Alexandre Desplat. He's just such an Academy favorite. Maybe not quite as of late. He missed a few in the past couple of years, but I think he still got the prestige, he still got the love from the Academy, and collaborating with Guillermo del Toro can really give him like the chance to like this. And we've heard a bit of it. It's like this really magical little score. It can appeal to his strengths. Like the Plat's really good when he's like sunny and upbeat and like doing all that stuff like we heard in like Little Women and his scores with Wes Anderson. So I feel like Pinocchio is going to really play to his strengths. And if it is, that kind of player that Matthew was saying it would be, then I could definitely see score getting in for that package.
I mean, you talk about there Desplat working with Del Toro. There's another score I haven't heard you mention yet that I know I'm a little bit higher on than Matt is, and that is Babylon with Justin Hurwitz working again with Damien Chazelle. I know he missed for First Man, but he did win for La La Land.
Yeah, I just don't really know about how much music there's going to be in there. I assume quite a bit, but yeah, I've got him fourth on my list right now, just because I'm a little uncertain of the amount of music. And as you say, he has been snubbed for a Damien Chazelle film. So, but yeah, I'm reasonably high on it. So we'll just see. And Babylon's looking to be such a big old tech sweeper that it definitely stands to reason that score can come along for the ride.
So there's a few scores I haven't heard yet. You have one more spot in your top 5. You have both Hilder scores for Women Talking and Tar. You have my personal pick for the number 5 slot, The Batman. And then you have some blockbusters like Wakanda Forever, The Way of Water, and even Everything Ever All at Once. So which one claims your number 5 spot?
Oh, this is tough. I thought Women Talking because, big Best Picture winner, Best Picture contender, all that stuff. The thing is, I probably need someone to talk to me about this because I don't know like how much score there would be in that kind of film where it's like people sitting around and talking. So it's hard to gauge at the minute from where I'm standing at that. So yeah, you mentioned Batman. That would be the score that I'd love to like get in. That was so good. It was so horrifying for the way it presented Batman with the horns and all that stuff. So it was just really, that would be my dream to get in. Although I say that before, we've even heard a note of some of the other scores. So another one that some people have mentioned, not everyone, but that She Said by Nicholas Britell. Part of that might be because I finally watched Succession this year and the score was like, chef's kiss. But yeah, I feel like if this is, I had it in when I was a bit higher and She Said, it kind of slipped down the ratings a bit. Once we had films like, Women Talking, kind of Ascend, that She Said kind of slipped down a bit. But, Britell, he's pretty well liked. He's gotten a few times before with, he's worked with Barry Jenkins and Anna McKay. So yeah, he could definitely get in. But the fifth pick I have, and it's probably a risk here, but it is Avatar: The Way of Water. Now,
let's go.
Avatar, of course, first film composed by the late great James Horner. Taking over him, we have Simon Franklin, who you mentioned on the podcast last week that you didn't know of the potential score of the world of Avatar without James Horner. We actually do have the the scores of the world of Avatar without James Horner, and that's located at Pandora, the world of Avatar, Animal Kingdom, Disney World. I've taken a list of it, and it's really good stuff. It's like really fitting to the world of Pandora. It's just getting me really good vibes for the sequel when Franklin himself is taking over. So again, I'm pretty reasonably high on Avatar. I feel like it can get into Best Picture and get into Best Director possibly. It can get a bunch of obviously tech stuff. So I feel like score is like a really good potential for it to get in, and a good fifth slot and a good blockbuster slot.
I mean, you hit everything right there, because I mean, I'm just not predicting Avatar to get in for Picture and Director. I'm predicting it to win Picture and Director. So adding a score nomination would look even better for my slate here, because after you mentioned that, and before coming on the show today about how we actually have heard what the Avatar score would be like, I remember back to when I went to Disney World last year, it was like, the score was like, the music in Pandora was really nice. And I just assumed in my head that was from the first movie or just outtakes of all the extra hours they were recorded. But then the more I've reflected on it here, I'm like, yeah, that was really nice. And why wouldn't the biggest spectacle of the year get in for score? And I know I'll probably be adjusting my personal score rankings here to include Avatar at least in my top 6, if not my top 5. But yeah, I really like that. I'm really hoping that it's going to be as good as you and I are both expecting. But before we get out of here for today, do you have any last things you want to say?
No, really, just having a good time in fantasy film. This is my sport.
I mean, like you said earlier, your team, it looks really nice this year. I think you'll be a lot happier with your team's performance in 2022. But I want to thank you for coming on the show here today. Wow, we just got to hear from 3 members here of the Filmball community blessing us with their expertise. We heard from Zinc talking about her experience over at Venice, all the movies she got to see. And I mean, I've said here on the show before, I'm not very hyped for Tar, but hearing her rave and speak her love for that movie makes me really want to see it. Give that movie a fair shot. See Cate Blanchett just devour that screenplay and just showcase her amazing acting capabilities. Jack talked about his experience at Telluride. He really got me feeling so good about Bardo. Obviously, Bardo got hammered hard over there at Venice, but Telluride seemed to like this movie a little bit more, and I still have a little bit of faith that it can still be an awards player outside of international features. Cinematography, sure. COD show and actor, I mean, why not at this moment? And then we heard from Morri over there talking about the best original score category, and really got me excited for the Avatar score. I didn't even realize I've heard parts of what the score is going to sound like from when I've gone to Disney World, to Animal Kingdom, and to the land of Pandora. And what I've heard there was really good. I actually go back there next month, so I'll get to hear it a little bit more before the movie comes out this December. So I want to thank Zinc. I want to thank Jack. I want to thank Morri for coming on the show this week while Matt is out of town enjoying his slate over there at TIFF. He's already seen a handful of films by the time this is coming out, and if you want to check out what he's seen and what he's thought about them, go to his Twitter. That's Matty_Downs, MATTY_DOWNS. He's live tweeting about his experience over there at TIFF, and in fact, Billy Eichner saw one of his tweets and he liked it from his screening at Bros, which is one I'll give a little bit of a spoiler right here. He enjoyed it very much. And I've loved getting to know everyone who came on the show here today to talk about their Oscar expertise and get to hear from them and talk to them face to face. It was a great experience for me, and I hope that we'll be able to get other people from the Discord, from people who may see this episode here, to come on the show in the future, to go to their local film festivals and showcase and talk about just what films they see and what they think their Oscar prospects could be. Matt should be back next week from TIFF to talk about all the movies he's seen, including The Fabelmans. But I want to thank everyone for tuning into this episode. It was a little bit of a different one because it's just me, no Matt. Next week we should be back to normal. But until then, I'm Dyl, and this has been Fantasy Filmball. Thank you for tuning to this episode of Fantasy Filmball with Matt and Dyl. Keep up to date with us on Twitter at @FFilmball. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you prefer to listen to podcasts. We even upload a video format of the podcast to YouTube if you want to see our faces. Thank you for listening to this episode of the show, and come back next week.